All right, good afternoon, everybody. And for those of you who are new to the free Nectari training sessions, welcome. And for those who are continuing on, I think we're on our third session today, so welcome back. My name is Olivia, and I'm the Director of Business Development for North America for the Nectari product, and I'm accompanied by actually my colleague Gerardo today. I believe it's Gerardo instead of Edgardo, so that you're not surprised. It will be Gerardo presenting the session 3 on the data modeler. In terms of just some quick housekeeping items to let you guys know about, if we can just go to the next slide here, please. There you go. Cool. Perfect. All right, so all of your microphones will be muted. However, we will be stopping for questions, I believe, periodically throughout the session. If you do have questions, though, in the meantime, just don't hesitate to type them into chat. And actually, I have my colleague messaging me saying that it actually is Edgardo today presenting. So I'm just confused the heck out of all of you. And I think we're all going to be surprised as to whether it's Edgardo or Gerardo today. So just letting you guys know. So again, it's a 2-hour webinar session. We said the Q&A will be at the end, and we will get to the questions in the chat at the end, but I believe we'll also be stopping midway through to take some questions and give our instructor a little breather. All training sessions will be recorded. I know I say this every time, and I'll mention it again at the end, but they will be recorded and shared so that you can also share them internally within your organization to others who might want to listen and will benefit from training. So on that note, I just want to thank you all for attending today's session. And again, if you're a newbie to the sessions, welcome. If you've been to the sessions before, welcome back. We're super happy to be able to connect with all of our customers. And I know I said this before as well, we're not able to see you face to face, and we probably won't be for a while. So again, we just wanted to do something to be able to connect with you guys while also transferring some of that knowledge. Of course, version 9 has just been released of Nectari, so getting into some of the information in regards to that and some training on that. So on that note, I will really pass it to somebody. I'm not 100% sure who at this point, but I think we're all about to find out at the same time. So whoever it is, please feel free to take over.
That's a nice introduction. Thank you, Olivia.
There you go, Ed.
It's good to hear you, Olivia. Nice to see you guys again. It's gonna be me, Edgardo, this time. For you guys that don't know me from the last session, I'm a consultant in Tangerine. I've been working for the company for about 6 years and a half. I've had the opportunity to go through good and very interesting and challenging projects from my experience here in Tangerine. And during today's session, we're gonna be looking at one of the components that we use to solve all those questions and problems that the customers have. So for you guys that know me a bit more about what else can I tell you guys? Well, I'm a software engineer, and I've been working in the BI domain for about 10 to 14 years. So any questions that you guys have, I'll be pleased to be able to answer. Again, feel free to make questions. Just put the question in the chat box, and I will be checking them periodically. As soon as you post a question, I will try to finish the idea in which I will be. And then, of course, I will be going and see if the question it's related to what I'm doing, or if it's easy to reply, and then I will be replying either right away or just when I go and tackle the specific subject that you have questions about. So today we're going to be looking at the data modeler. So this is one of the main components that we use as designers, as administrators of the Nectari application. And the whole idea will be to explain you at the very beginning that we have some components related to it as the environments, as the data sources. Then we're gonna see, and we're gonna just present you where you can find the data model designer. And then we're gonna see on some of the data model options. Of course, then we're gonna be taking the chance to explain you guys the end user terminology that we have. Sometimes you just don't think too much about what we said to you guys, what we transmit to you guys, and we talked about dimensions, measures, descriptions, fact tables, prompts, and parameter names. So we're gonna take the opportunity to explain some of those, and then we're gonna be creating a data model. We're gonna be creating a data model. And on that data model, you guys will see that you will be able to have complete control on the data that you will be accessing to. And then we're gonna make it more complex by enhancing that data model, and we will be using some advanced functionalities inside the data modeler. Feel free to ask me any question. We have approximately an hour and a half that's going to be completely dedicated to me or me telling you guys. So don't worry, ask any questions on that during that hour, and I will be going as deep as I can with the data model. This session is going to be a bit more technical, a bit more complex. I will try to make it as easy as I can. But remember, if you need me to repeat something, just post that as a question, and I will review. I will repeat this subject. I will be telling you guys as much as needed. So just be aware of that. So we are going to first access to the web application. So in the web application is where we are going to be able to find the data modeler. Now, before starting to work with the data modeler, we're going to be taking a look on one key concept, and it is how do we call or how do we manage the environments and data sources. So when you guys start setting up, or when we start setting up Nectari, the first thing we set up prior to installing anything that you guys see in this catalog, the first thing we do is configuring a data source and then configuring an environment. So a data source will be, in a practical matter, a database structure. So in this opportunity, we have two database structures. We have X3, we have another called the BI cube, which is going to be the Nectari cube database. Now, X3 will be the ERP that you guys have. You guys can have any other, Sage 300, 200, 100, 1000. And the Nectari cube will be pretty much always the same. Now, X3 will be one structure. The cube will be another structure. If I happen to think about Sage 300, that structure will be different to any of the ones we have in here. So if we want to include that structure, we will need to add a new structure and set it up. New DB, and this is going to be, for the sake of the argument, Sage 200. Now, that's going to be the data source. Let's say that we want to add a data source that's not related to Sage. Let's say a legacy system. Well, that will constitute a new database structure that we want to access. Therefore, it will be another data source, a new data source. Now, that's going to be the data source section. Now, what's an environment? An environment is going to be how many times we want to explore the same databases. For example, in this opportunity, we have production, where we can add a new environment, and that new environment will be pointing our testing servers. So we don't need to create a new data source for X3 for when we work on our testing server. We want to add an environment so we can actually set up a testing environment that's going to include the same structures we previously created. In this opportunity, we have a new connection to access the structure that we called as X3, and we have a new opportunity to define a new connection for the Nectari cube as well. And that's why they show red. They show red because they will be pointers to another database, to another server that's using the same structures that we defined. So let's repeat. Data source is going to be a structure. Let's think about that way. And environments will be how many times I will be having that structure in my company. So I have X3, but I have one server that's for testing and another server that's for production. That means I only have one data source, but two environments. Now, why is this so important? Because when we are going to start working with the data model, the first thing we're going to be looking at is what structure do we want to use. So to create any data model, the first thing that we want to have is that we want to do is we want to go to the command center where we find the data models and views, and we can right click in any section that's empty and then select new data model. When we select new data model, we see that the first question that I receive is, what name do I want to put to that data model? And the second question, and the most important, what source or structure do I want to use to develop my data model? So since I have two structures predefined, I will be having one for X3 and another for the Nectari cubes. So every table that's going to be in X3 will come from here. And every table that belongs to the cubes that we create in Nectari is going to be accessed. We're going to be able to see it when we choose the data source, the second data source that I show right now. Now, I'm going to cancel this because I want to introduce how we change in between the different environments. So let's say we take one of the reports that we offer out of the box. In this opportunity, invoice by customer. So we take invoice by customer, we execute this report. It really doesn't matter the conditions that we define. And it all makes sense when we're working in this report, because this report will take data from X3. But then if I want to change in between environments, let's say in between my testing environment and my production environment, I can make use of the option next to the username. And it says, and it's going to display a list that's going to tell me it's going to list as many environments as I have set up on my company, on my Nectari configuration. So in this way, we have one development pointing one single data source or database structure, and I can change the pointer in between these environments by just making use of the option next to the user. Okay, so I'm gonna take the opportunity to go and see if you guys have any questions. And so far, I believe so good. So environments, and then we have the data sources. Now, prior to going and explaining a bit more about the data sources and the data model, I will take the opportunity here and I will show you the dimensions and measures that we have available. So everything that we're gonna be pointing or we're gonna be creating in the data model will be pointing to giving the user access to dimensions, measures, descriptions, and calculate the columns. Now, dimensions will be, what will be dimensions? A dimension is something that I want to use to make a list, something that I want to show, or something that I want to use as a group. That's why we have the dimensions. In this case, a year. A year, I don't want to necessarily add up all the years. I want to see the quantity sold on the year 2020. So the year will be a dimension, or for example, the document number. It's important to me to see, to visualize the document number. As well with the customer code. I want to see the customer code. Now, a measure in the opposite will be something that will be used to perform or to show the result of a mathematical calculation. For example, I have the amount, and the amount is the result of adding up every product that I sold in this document number on the year 2020. Now, if we want to take a step more into the measure, we will say that a measure will be anything that can happen at any point in time. For example, I sold 10 shoes in 2020. So 10 is the quantity, is what actually happened. And then it happened in the year 2020 related to my shoes, the shoes that I wanted to sell. Now, descriptions will be just the meanings or what a code means. For example, my company might have a name. So if I want to list that name, then you can drill down and visualize the company name the same way I group or list any other group. So dimensions and descriptions in that sense will be pretty similar. Measures will be very different because measures are at the end what I actually want to get from a report, is something that happened and something that I want to measure and take. Now, those are going to be concepts that are more abstract. We're going to be taking a look on how we implement those in Nectari. So, to continue with this example, we're going to create a data model that's based on the sales information that it is in X3. So the first question is, how do I access the information when I work with Nectari? I know that there's a catalog that's already available for me, but how do I create my own window to that access to that data, or how can I start playing with that? So I told you guys, you're going to right click in any empty section of the command center. You're going to define a data model. In this case, it's going to be sales information. Like on last Thursday, we talked about finance. Let's switch to sales. Sales data, let's say. We know that the sales data is inside the X3 data source. So that's why we choose the first data source in here. For you guys that are here in between Quebec and Ontario, sometimes we might need support in between French and English. So we have a little option here that would allow us to translate everything we're going to be doing in those two languages and even more. So we have what it means in English, what it means in French. You can define Spanish, German, Chinese, Chinese traditional, and Portuguese. We're going to keep this empty so far, and we're going to confirm the options here. When we confirm, the first thing we're going to see is an empty canvas that will allow us to start working on this new data model we want to create. So since we're going to be working over a data source, we need to know a bit of data source. And starting from there, we're going to start linking the tables that we want and we want to use. So we're going to start with creating a simple data model using the table S-invoice. S-invoice details. That's going to be the one we're going to be choosing. And the first table that I use will become, for us, the fact table. It's going to become the main table that we will use to be creating all these requests to the server. So the fact table will be in the middle. and nothing more. Now, if we leave this as it is and we save, if we try to create any report or any view, the error message that we will be looking at will be, hey, you haven't selected any field. Nothing is available. You have told the data model to have access to the table SC invoice D, but nothing is published to anybody. So that's what we're going to be doing next. We're going to be publishing or allowing fields to be used by the user. So we're going to close this window and we're going to start defining that. So a very good sales report will have the invoice number. We need to know a bit more about the data model, and I know that the num_0, it's actually the invoice number. We want to know the company. We want to go and know, for example, the order number. That's another. The line, which is going to be this line in here. We want to know the sales rep, which is going to be rep 1 and rep 2. Let's just keep it with rep 1 in here. We want to know the item. The item will be the item reference. We want to know about the customer. And let's leave it so far as it is. So now we're going to be allowing people to see all this information. Let's take a look and see if this information is actually useful or not. Now, when we create a new report, a new view over that data model, we will have columns, and on the columns we have all this, everything that we see here right now. And if we go to our catalog or to our fields that have been published for us to use, we're going to be looking that we have dimensions. We have measures as well, but we don't have any meaningful measure. We have dimensions that are just related to data that we want to know, but that they're not useful if we don't have something to measure that. So that's what we're going to be taking, or that what we're going to be adding next. We're going to be adding measures, and for measures, I mean in here, the amount, the quantity, maybe we can take the cost. Now, when we go back, and we execute this view, now we have basic access on the table. And when we try to use the amounts, we're able to see and visualize them and see that there's data that might be meaningful from the reports we're trying to create. Now, we're going to be solving a question after another. So the first question that we answered with the creation of this data model was, how can I access to the sales information? So the answer will be, I create a data model. Now, how can I access to, once that I create the data model, how can I find the table that I need to use to get that data? Well, you're going to be right-clicking on this window and adding the table, and the table will be SC invoice D. Now, how can I publish fields from that table so users can use them? Well, we're going to double-click on the columns that we want to use and then select them. That will be a good overview. But now the question will be, how can I make these columns look better? Because I'm it's okay for me as a technical user to have the invoice number as num_0, but that wouldn't be so user-friendly for the people that want to use this report. So how can I start changing those names so they look differently? Do I need to change the field in the database? Well, the answer will be no. If we want to make these columns look better, we're going to make use of the first two options that we have in the data model. So the first option we're going to be setting up will be the second option, the column heading. And in the column heading, we're going to be putting the meaning of that. We're going to be typing in the meaning of that column. So the first column will be the invoice number. The second column will be the company. The third will be the order number. This is going to be the invoice line. This is going to be the sales rep, the product or SKU or item as well. This is going to be the customer. This is going to be the invoice amount. This is going to be the quantity sold. And this is going to be the unit cost. Okay, I'm going to save this. And now let's execute that report again and see how everything changes. So we're going to be executing the report again. Well, let me just save it first so it looks better. And now I have meaningful descriptions for the columns or the fields that I want to use or want to allow users to use in their reports. When I go and click on dimensions and measures, now I visualize all these meaningful names that I want people to actually use. So by using these two first options, we're going to be able to enhance the report immediately. Why? Because it will have meaningful names for the columns that we want to use. Now, let me save this again and let me go back. Okay, so now this is the first thing we're going to be doing. Now, I was using the second line, which is going to be the column heading. Now, what's the use of the first line? Well, the first line will work to group these names that I want to use. So as you guys see here, I have invoice number next to invoice amount. Let's refresh it a bit. I have invoice number next to invoice amount. So that's the next question. Is like, is there a way to make a group in between these? So I have a header and then I have the actual name. Well, that's the purpose of this first line that I was talking about. So when we talked about this first line, we can say, hey, I will take the invoice word as my group heading for my invoice number, my invoice line, my invoice amount. I will add a tag for the quantity sold and for the unit cost. I'm going to save again. And when I execute this report, I have a header grouping the invoice number and the invoice amount. So these first two options are about aesthetics. So we have a meaningful name and we have a meaningful naming that is going to be grouped according to what we need. So in here, it is not grouped. And in here, in this new report, it has a little beautiful tag grouping the options. So we start from something raw to something that goes a bit better to something that starts to look way more better. Okay, that's the meaning of those, and that's how we use these two lines. I will see if there's any questions. There's no questions so far, so I will continue. Now, let's go and talk about the visible level. When we have the opportunity to talk about the security level, we will see that if we have a bigger number or a higher number, we will have more options. So everything that I want you to remember right now about this visible level is the higher, the better. For example, we're talking about the unit cost. Well, the unit cost might be very useful for the manager, but sometimes we don't want the sales rep to know what it is. So if in our security profile, we have 20 for this field, let's say, I can put my sales reps to at 10. So I can put the sales rep at 10. So they don't see this column, but managers that are going to be having a visible level in 20 will be able to see that. So I will use the same report with two different outputs, and the security will control who gets access to what field or not. I have two questions, so I'm going to just read them. So Dinesh is asking, can I add the same column twice but with different formulas? The answer is yes, you will be able to add them twice. If you add a column that's going to be the company, well, the next one will need to be a calculated column, and we're gonna be going there. But technically, you will be able to add it twice. Now, following the question, it says, okay, like one for the invoice amount and another with credit notes and another based on the invoice type. You will be able to do that, and I will explain that in approximately 15 minutes. Now, Vinod is asking how we can link multiple tables. I'm gonna go there in a minute, so just wait a little bit longer. I'm gonna be there. So, okay, so that's gonna be the visual level. Now, let's talk about the format. When we talk about the format, we see that we have the format looking like this. And this is okay, but it wouldn't be right, and it will be breaking our managers' heads. So they will say, hey, I just want to see a regular format where I have 2 decimals and that's it. So that's the purpose of this format. So we're going to have the format being number with 2 decimal places. Now, in the numeric format, guys, please be aware that we added since like a year ago the parentheses. So if you guys were struggling with not having the parentheses, they're already there for you guys to use. Now, for the quantity sold, we're going to apply the same. In this opportunity, we will remove the decimal places. And for the unit cost, we'll just keep it the same way, this way. So that's the purpose of the format. Let's talk about the dates. I'm going to be adding the invoice date because I don't have it in my process, in my data model. And then when I go and define a date format, I have the date being YYYMMDD. This is the one that I prefer. Then we have a checkbox that says century. And century means I will remove any time variation of this date. For example, I will be showing YYY, the year, the month, and the day, but I won't be showing the hours, even if they're available. So that's the purpose of century. We're going to be truncating, so we only show the date part. On the time, we have the same logic. Now, something that we want to see here that not too much people use is the user format. So sometimes a user prefer to use YYY, MM, and DD, so year, month, and day. But another user prefers day, month, and year. So if we don't want to have troubles in between all of those, or if we want to just satisfy all of them, well, we're going to be using user format. And when we use user format, the user will be able to see the format they prefer based on the same data model. I've been mentioning a lot about a data model. In this V9, we changed the meaning of process. We're no longer going to work with the process meaning that we had before. We call them now data models. Now, this is going to be the invoice date, and that's going to cover the format. We will see that we added very interesting formats as the image, we're going to see it next, and the hyperlink. Now, before going into that, I'm going to take the chance and explain the column type. In this, remember that I was mentioning before the column type. Well, on the column type, you will be able to change what's going to be a measure and what's not going to be a measure. For example, an invoice line by default is taken as a measure because it's a numeric value, but this is an actual dimension because it's something I want to list. I don't want to be adding up the invoice lines. I want to be just showing if an invoice line is 1 or 2 or 1,000 or 2,000 on that sense. Now, we have some other options, but basically we have three. We have dimensions, and that includes dimensions key, dimensions data. We have measures, and that includes the measure data and the measure calculated. And then we have the description data, which is the ones that I explained before. Now, if we want to switch in between them, we're going to be adding that part. Now, so far we haven't added too much into this data model. Now, let's start enhancing the experience by adding things that we are going to find useful. Now, the first thing we're going to be adding is the customer name. So we have the customers. How can we know the name for that customer? So we're going to be making use of the add table option. We're going to be looking for the option that's going to be BP customer. And then that's the way we select a new table to be playing in this universe that we have. And if we want to link them together, what we need to do is we need to click and hold from the source field and drag and drop and leave it empty when we reach the new target destination. In this case, we're going to link BPC INV on the table S invoice D with the field BPC num on the table BP customer. So I click and hold, drag and drop, and then the link will be created. And that will allow me to follow up on Dinesh on Vinod question, because this is the way you link in between tables. And we have some other options to link. We have some other things and tricks that we can use, but that's the basic link in between the table. If you want to add more tables, you just need to add another table and link it the same way. And if they link based on different fields, remember, you can always have multiple links in here. I'm just using the BPC num link, but if I want to just link based on the company, I don't have a company on BP customer. I can just drag and drop and make a link with what I need on the other table. Hopefully this answers your question. If not, we're going to be doing more about it in a few minutes. So we will be saving. And now we're going to be using the customer name. We're going to be making use of the click and hold again just to organize our data model. This will be the code and this will be the name. And if we save this and we open the report we have available, now we will see that when we add the customer, when we expand the dimensions, we have the customer code and the customer name. And I'm going to drag and drop and use it as a group and see what happens. So when I do that, I see the customer code and I see it showing next to any name. If we learned something from the template we are using is that we automatically assign the name to the customer code. For example, when we have a company code in this report out of the box, we have the name next to it. And you guys will be wondering, how can I do it? So the way to do it will be the following. We'll be following these three steps. The first step will be adding the table from where you're going to take that information from. That's the first step. You add the table and you link it properly. Well, second step will be you will be identifying the name or the meaning of that code. And then you will be switching from that name from being a dimension to be a description. That's the second step. And the third step is we're going to link that code with that description by using the option description field. When we use that option, we list every possible field that could be used as a description for that code. And that means in this opportunity that we will be using the VPC customer VPC name as the description for that code that we have in here. So first, we add the table and we link it properly. Second, we switch so the name is not a dimension, it's going to be a description for from now on. And then the third step will be we will link those two fields together by going into the code and you selecting the description on the description field line, as I'm showing right now. So now, when I execute this report again, look at what happens. Before, we didn't have any relationship in between the code and that meaning on that name or in that name. And now we do have the company code next to the description, and they're together. Now that's the step. That's how you do it. Now, if we see deeper on what we have on the regular report that we offer out of the box, we don't see that it says the title at the very beginning. It just says the company, which is going to be a BE20, and then the name BE process. When we go into sales report, we have customer code A006 and then distribuidora do Calixto. Now, how can we modify how this behave? So we can modify it by making use of this next line description format. If I go into this code and I say, hey, I just want to show the code in the description. Now I will see that it's just the code and the description. And before, it got the title. You can switch as many times as you need, and you can define it to be according to what you guys need. Now, we have code description, we have title description, or just the code, or just the description. For example, an example of this will be if you want to transform the year, the calendar year, into the fiscal year, you can do it, and you can show just the fiscal year at the very end, and that will be one way of applying this. Okay, let me see. Now, I was adding the BP customer. Now, let's continue to enhance this experience with the item description. But for the item, I have something else prepared. We have a special type of join that's called the specific joins. So by default, we are always going to do a left join. This is going to go a bit more technical, but basically we're going to show any result on this table at the left, regardless if we have an occurrence on this table on the right. Now, sometimes we need to have a better logic in this. We need to go and filter the results before making that join. For example, on the item, especially for us here in Quebec and because we're so close with Ontario and we need to support, it is important for us to have the multi-language capabilities enabled. We're going to be making use of the attextra table. Now, for you guys that know X3 a bit more, we know that the texture table is a big table. Now, since it is a big table, we need to be really careful about including this table inside this arrangement in here. So first I will add that table, but I need to take into consideration that I need to filter this table prior to using it in my process. So I will be creating a link in between these two tables, and the link will be the following. I need to filter this table first, and for that, I know that I need to filter it based on the item master information. And as you guys can see, I apply a filter here. I need to apply another filter where the zone is the ES1AXX, which is going to be the first description. And then I need to filter based on the language. ENG in this opportunity. And when I have that, now I do have the table or the result from that table that I want to use in my query. So how can I reproduce this? So I will say, hey, my code is going to be in identity 1. So I click and hold, drag and drop, and this is going to be my next, the link that I will use in between those tables. And now to filter that table out, I will be making use of an option called joins in a specific values. When I click in there, I can define the restrictions that I previously searched on my SQL Management Studio. So I will say add a join where the config table is equals to item master, where the zone is equal to XX. And now I will add another join where the language is not ENG. I will be making use of an option called the environment, the special variable, sorry. And that variable will be the current language. And that will mean that I will be filtering based on the language that the user has as their default. So I will be pressing OK. And now I will be making use of the 3 steps that I mentioned before. Product code. Now I have my product description. This is going to be a description data. And this is going to be related to my description by the setup of the description field line here. And I will show the code description here right away. When I save my data model and execute the report again, now I will see that the product is actually oops, it's not working properly. I guess I used the wrong field. It's actually text. I will repeat this again. Sorry, guys. There we go. Now it works the way we want it. Now, since we're browsing this and we're taking a look on the products, I'm going to take the opportunity to add a new, add the images for these products. This is something we didn't have available on version 8. We do have it available in V9. So let's say I just want to go and show the little images related to these sprockets in this case, or the chain wheels. So we're going to follow the following steps. We're going to go into the data model. We need to have those images inside the database. For X3, we know that those images are in a table called CBLOP. Now, we're going to be linking the item with the field identity 1. We're going to be selecting the field blob 0. This will be a product image. And then the format that we're going to be selecting is going to be image. And the data format will be raw. Now, when we click on this report again and we test it out, we will be able to see the different images that we have available for that column. I guess I'm missing the product, so I will add it. And now you guys will see how all this information shows the image related to that product line in there. If we go and see the bicycles, then I guess we're going to be looking at keyboards in this case, and mouses and mice and whatnot. Keyboards as well, printers. This is a new option in version 9, so make use of it. Now, something that you guys might be wondering is, how can I make use of how can I just group everything so I have the total of the amounts that were invoiced? Well, it is a very common mistake not to set up the line subtotal. So when we set up the line subtotal, we can say, hey, my invoice amount will be sum. My quantity sold will be sum as well. My unit cost, I rather prefer not to show it when we're grouping. And my image, I will say, always show the last image that you have for that product. When I execute the report again, look at how it looks. Now we have my invoice amount populating according to what I need. I have my company, and if I add the product as a group, let's see how it works. Now we have all the information being shown in there. Now, as a very special trick, we can make use of the product, and we can make use of the images the same way we're doing it right now with these new functionalities. We skipped some of the lines. One of them is going to be prompt query. Let's explain the purpose of that option. So the purpose of that option will be more clear if I actually show you one of the templates we offer out of the box. So let's say that I have doubts on the product code that I want to search. So I can always come here and say show prompts. When I click on that option, I have a list of products that I can make that I can use to make a good filter. If we go into our report, we will see that if I right click on the product code and I click on show prompts, nothing shows there. And that means that there's no visual help for me and there's nothing assigned into that column. So that's going to be the use of this line prompt query. We're going to assign meaningful lists so people can filter easily. Now, for example, for company, we're going to be adding one that's called company. For product code, we're going to be looking for the one that's called product code. By default, we add many prompts already out of the box. For customer code, we're going to look for another one there. Now, what's the rule? The rule is we're going to be adding prompts for any meaningful dimension that we want to be giving the user access to. For example, the company is really meaningful, the sales rep is very meaningful, the product as well, so I might want to actually add prompts for that. Let me just add one for the sales rep. And this will be good enough. Now, if I save this and I go to my report and I click on the customer code and select show prompts, now I have a list that will help me filter in between the companies. It's going to happen the same for the company, and it's going to happen the same way for the product code dimension. I know this is very technical, so before continuing, do you guys have any question? Let me just check on the panel. So far, it's clear enough. Now, before continuing with the subtotal restrictions and exceptions and whatnot, we're going to be taking a look on how to enhance this process even more. As you guys can see, there's nothing in this table that is showing the years or the months or things or fields like that, like those, that will help me actually place my information in time. So since we don't have this in the tables, we can create our own by making use of the calculated columns. So to create a calculated column, we can right click on any section and select add calculated column. When we create the calculated column, we're going to have a name like this. This opportunity, I'm going to just add the invoice year. I will switch, so instead of being a measure, it's going to be a dimension, because if I want to show the year is something I want to list, I want to use as a group. So I switch it that way. Now, when I go to calculations, which is going to be one of the last options in this section of this menu, I will get the scripts builder. On the scripts builder, I will be making use of any SQL command that I could know. In this case, I will be making use of the function year to extract the year from the invoice date. And just by doing that, I will have a new dimension available for me. I will take the opportunity to add another calculated column. In this opportunity, I will be creating the month. Again, I don't want it to be a measure, I want it to be a dimension. So I go into my calculation line, and I will be making use of the function month. Although I want to show you that we offer a special function for these scenarios. It is a special function that you can use, and it will be generic regardless of the data source you guys have. In this case, BI month will do the following. It will be extracting the month from the invoice date. You guys will be wondering, but then what's the benefit of adding this instead of a SQL function? The benefit is really, really clear when we think about different data sources. When we use the function month in SQL Server, and we want to use the same function in Oracle, for example, or DB2, we find that it's not the same function we need to use. So we have added these special functions for you guys to make a unique development, and behind the scenes, we will be transforming depending on the source that we find. Now, this is going to be the invoice year and the invoice month, but that's fairly good. But what if I want to add a new measure? Well, I will be adding another calculated column next to the invoice amount, and that will be the cost amount. And when we add the cost amount, we're going to tell him, hey, I want that to be added up. And on my calculation line, we will be multiplying the cost, which is going to be the CPR price, times the quantity. And now I have a measure that's calculated, and dimensions that are the result of a calculation as well. That way, I'm enhancing this data model so it has a better definition of the time with year and month, and a better calculation because we added up the cost amount, which is not something we find on the tables right away. When I save and I go and build my sales report, now I can be a bit more flexible, and then I can actually go and say, hey, I want to see everything by years, follow that, or breaking down by month, where I show my invoice amount, my cost amount, and my quantity sold. Let me organize this worksheet a bit better. And there we have it. So we started from something that was very, very raw. And now we have something that looks better and feels better, and something that users can use to start working on this better. So since we saw all of this progress, let's actually remove some of the steps so we clean this area a bit better. So this is very raw, and now we have the result in which we are at this moment. I'm going to take the opportunity to go and check on the panel. There's no questions so far. Feel free to ask any questions. If you want me to repeat something, just let me know. Now, let's take and explore some of the special options we have on the subtotal options. Now, let's say that we have our invoice amount, but now we want to see what's the percentage of that invoice amount. What will be the, let's say that I break down by month, what will be the percentage of January compared to what the total amount was in the year? Now, for that, we are offering an option that's available since quite a while ago, and that's going to be the percentage of parent. And that one will be used the following way. We're going to add a calculated column. We're going to select the field that we want to specify for that percentage to be. And now we will find a function that's called percentage of total. The only thing we need to do is we need to go to calculation and we need to duplicate the use of that column. So we will be using AMT NO line in here. Let's define a percentage value here, a format. And now when we execute the report again, we're going to be able to add the percentage related to that column. For example, in this opportunity, we have a big subtotal. Where we have $373 million, and be in 2020, the 41% of it, or 2021, the 58% of it as well. Now, this is going to be flexible because I can break down or drill down in this opportunity and see the same information but based on months. For example, in this, I have that the month of January contributed 9%, 9.28%, to the $156 million that I got in the year 2020. Now, this is going to be very flexible because if I switch in between the customer code and the invoice amount, then I see the percentages making a variation as well, and that's what I actually want. This is an option that that's very powerful that not many people know. So just feel free to use it because it's really powerful. Now, that's going to be the percentage of parent, the percentage of total, sorry. Now, let's keep enhancing this data model with more options. So now one of the options that we might want to do in here is we might want to calculate the sales margin and the sales margin percentage. Now, how can we do that part? Well, the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding up the margin calculation, the regular margin that we have in between the invoice amount and the cost. For that, we're going to be adding up a new calculation. Which is going to be AMT NO line minus the cost times the price. Okay. Now we're going to have the sales margin here. And let's talk about the percentage. With the percentage, we have a special challenge. the challenge is that we need to, if we want to do a percentage calculation, we cannot use the amounts coming from the database. We need to use the actual results that are printed on the screen. So for example, if I want to create the sales margin percentage, I need to use the actual amount, that's the subtotal, the 156 millions, and then the sales margin. The sales margin is a bit off. We're going to be checking on that. But we need to take that into consideration. So we need to do an operation based on the lines printed on the screen in a horizontal way. Now, on the sales margin, let me check a bit more about what we did here. Of course, we messed it up. We need to use the quantity. So we need to take the 156 millions and then make an operation in between with the $104 million. So mathematically speaking, those subtotals are not in the database. We need to take them from the actual screen, from the actual report we have. For that, we're going to be making use of the on calculation line. This will be called sales margin percentage. It will be a percentage here. This will be, and this will be an on calculation. So to make this kind of operations, we need to follow 3 steps. First step is going to be on calculation. We're going to create the column and select it and define it as on calcul. The second step is we're going to be creating the operation. For that, we're going to be making use of the option we find on the on calculation, on the wizard we find in there. And then the result will be the margin percentage, which is going to be the calculated field that we created before. For you guys using V8, you won't find this option. This option was enabled, was shown, it is shown in V9. Just verify something here. FLD. Although, if you guys want to use the same functionality, it is enough by just typing the field like this, a calculated field like this. So it is not showing, this option is not showing in V8, but you can certainly make use of the same type of operations that I'm doing right now. So I will have the margin compared or divided the cost. And I will press OK. And now the third step will be we're going to add in here a little number that's going to be 0.0, just to define a format for that calculation. Now, let's see what happens right now. When we go and add the invoice amount, and the sales margin and sales margin percentage, this is what we get. So we get the result of the margin percentage being the margin divided the cost amount. which is going to be $51 million. In this case, we have an execution of 201%, which is super, super high. Now, let's see what happens. When we drill down, everything is going to be recalculated accordingly. Now remember, the important part about this calculation, this sales margin percentage, is that we need to have, like mathematically speaking, we need to take the result and not adding up. No, we don't need to add up the results and then perform the operation. And that's what you guys get with the on calculation. With the on calculation, you guys will always use a JavaScript definition. With the calculation, you guys will find a SQL Server definition or a database definition like the one I'm showing right now. Or for example, when we extract the year out of the invoice date, as we're doing in the year here, right here. You guys have been very, very quiet. Do you guys have any questions that I can reply? Okay, so now let's continue with the next step. Oh, thanks, Dinesh. Yeah, it is really good and it's really powerful as well. So now let's see some other options prior to me going and doing some things that are more advanced. So one of the most important lines, it doesn't seem to be, but one of the one of the most important lines that we find in this data model is the parameter name line. The parameter name line is going to be a line that will allow you to link in between all the different data models that you have in the template or that you could create in the future. So let me open one of the data models that you guys we have in our template out of the box. So as you guys see, let's wait a little bit longer. We have an option called a field called company, and at the end it says company. Well, by clicking on the parameter name and selecting the same name, I will be linking these two data models together. This is very important because the parameters are going to be used in many other functionalities. For example, we're going to be using them on the security module. We're going to be using them when we link to in between data models, and let me show you that in a minute. And we're going to be making use of them when we develop dashboards. So sales reps are going to be sales rep in here. The product code will be related to products. The customer code will be related to customer code. And the rule for this will be the same as with prompts. We will try to have a parameter name for every meaningful dimension. So if we attached one for the sales reps, let's try to add a parameter for that. And let me show you guys one of the applications of this. It's going to be when we go into our report, the sales report, and we execute it. Then we click on the month, for example, and we have the link to. And when I press link to, I can jump and filter based on the available reports based on that link that I just created. Let me go into the customer code a bit. That's going to be one step further. And when I link to, I'm going to see all the reports attached to that parameter name. Now, let me go in and see the deliveries. So when I jump, I see the deliveries by already pre-filtered by that customer that I just selected in that step. Now, this is one of the functionalities, but remember, it's going to tie up all the data models, and it will allow you to create that interconnection in between views when you're developing a dashboard. It will also work for security settings. So please have that in your minds, guys. Now, some of the other options that we have in the data model are going to be, we can preview what we're doing just to see if we're doing that, if we're performing a good development. Sorry, guys, there's a little, I have a testing environment again, so maybe the network got slow a bit, so that's why I'm getting this. Let me just reload it. Let's try to preview this so you guys can see. Okay, so nothing came out, but you will normally see the results, the first 200 rows coming from that data model. Something else we can do. Something else that we can do is that we can organize the dimensions and measures that we've created by clicking on the little folders. It's going to be the second option from the right to the left. And when we click on there, we're going to be able to organize the dimensions in new subgroups if we want it. For example, I can put a general folder, and I can just click and hold and drag and drop the dimensions I want to have inside that new folder I created. When I press OK and I save, I will be able to see a subfolder created on that sense. Okay, so let me just show you that part right now. Here you find the folder that we just created before. I see that you guys have a question, so let me just go and see and show it to you guys. So Dinesh, you're asking me, can we add a dimension like year to date, month to date, last year, and so on? And the answer is, it is, and that's going to be my next step. We're going to be making use of something we called the data model parameters. So let me see here. Now we're going to go back and we're going to be closing this data model to create those measures together. So the question that Dinesh has is, hey, I have my report showing this way. Now I want to keep the general picture. I want to keep looking at my year 2020, year 2021. I want to keep breaking down, but I want a separate column that shows only information on the year-to-date amount. Now, this year-to-date amount is supposed to be based on something I select, on something I define. For example, I want to have the year-to-date based on May, April, June, July, and so on and so forth. So to create those kind of measures, to be able to somehow see those different perspectives in the same report, then we're going to be making use of the data model parameters. So for that, I will right-click on the data model. That's going to be the first step. And I will be selecting Manage Data Model Parameters. So the first step is going to be, we will create those parameters we have or we need as an input for those kind of perspectives we want to see. So I will create a new parameter, and that parameter will be called year. Description will be year, and the value will be the current year that I have. That's going to be the value by default. As a global parameter, I can always select year in that part. I will confirm. And now I will open the data model again. And I will be adding up a new calculated column called year-to-date amount. But now I just realized that I missed something very, very important. I missed creating a new parameter for the month, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to select the actual month. So manage data model parameters. I will be adding the month. This will be the based on the current month. That's going to be the value by default. And now we'll confirm. Now I will open the data model again. And now I will add a calculated column. That will be the sales amount month to date. And another calculated column called sales amount year to date. They will both be numbers. I will be adding up the result of those. And we're going to go to the calculation option to define a SQL operation where we will be just filtering out the rows that are not matching the criteria we want to select. So this opportunity will be telling, okay, case when, else, and end. So case when the year. And this is how I like to work with these dates. It's a little trick that I use. Now, let's use the function that we have for that purpose, so we get it more generic. Times 100. This is something special. You guys don't have to do it that way. Plus the month is equal to those data model parameters that we created before. Then I will be taking into consideration that invoice amount that I just created. EMT and all line. If not, I will be excluding that row, and for that I put 0 because that's what I want to take if I don't match that criteria. Now that's going to be month to date. For year to date, the operation will be the same. except that this will be just a between. And on that between, I will be just taking the year, which is going to be the very beginning of the year in this case, and the result of taking my year and my month. So I'm in the month that I want to take. And then when I go back, I just need to use the following steps. I just need to execute the report. Let me save the actual layout that we had before. Now, when I add this report, remember that we added some parameters by default. Now I have that the information I want to take is placed on the year 2020, which is the year by default in this opportunity, and the month number 6, which is going to be June. So for June, I got my results here. It's going to be $12 million for the month to date progress, whereas for the year-to-date progress, I have $80 million in here. Now, how can we make it more interesting when I actually look based on the perspective that the customer might be asking? So if I switch, so instead of looking by year, I look by customer code. Now it makes sense. I have all these amounts telling me everything that could have happened in history. And at the end, I have my month to date and my year to date. Now, if you guys wonder, how can I change in between those? Well, in between the different months I have in a year, well, remember, when I execute this report again, the data model parameters will be the first thing to choose. So the window will tell me what year do you want to use as your year of reference, and what month do you want to use as your month of reference. For that, by default, we have the current year and the current month, but you can just type in anything you need. So I can just choose 2021 based on March, and I will confirm, and then the result will be calculated based on that, because that's the challenge we have. Now remember, we have prepared something very nice on the universal data model, because all these calculations are added as columns out of the box. So when you go to sales on the universal data model, you have that for the sales summarized report. In this case, you have, based on a month that you select at any moment, you have the information that's actual, the last month, the last quarter, the last year, and then you have month-to-month growth and some other KPIs are really, really interesting. So Dinesh, that will be my answer for you. Now, that's going to be the month to date and the year to date. Let me just add the last year into the equation. So I just need to follow the same criteria. So I can go sales amount and say, hey, this is going to be the month to date last year. And then I can just switch and say my year, instead of being the year that I put, is going to be the year -1. Now we'll add the sales amount year to date for the last year. And it is, instead of being the year, it will be the year -1. If I want to make sure that I have the same format for all these columns, it is enough for me to do the following. I can click on the column that I have. I can press Control and click on the other columns, right click, column properties, and then when I select on column properties, I can select the all the formats that I need, and they all will be the same for every selected column that I chose. And now they all changed, so they are the same. This is a very good observation, because what customers are going to be asking, or what you might be interested on doing, will be the same report, but on orders. So you want to see your current orders for the week, for the month, month to date, year to date, and then the same, but for the last year. Let's execute this report again. Let me close all of this so it shows clearer. And as you guys can see right now, all of these reports, or all the report is showing the information we want. We can just quickly do something here. We can go and actually remove all of these dimensions we have that are not so meaningful in this context. And then just create a report that's going to show the sales amount comparing the month to date, the year to date, the month to date last year, and the year to date last year. And of course, you can create margins or differences in between the different columns and create percentages the same way I told you guys before. The next time I execute this report, I can actually change the parameters that I selected and show a different output. It is very important to reinforce that if we want to see the month of reference, now we can go and use the results we have. So I can say, but by that I mean I can always come here and say year, and then use my special variable, $, year, and I can always say month and then $, $month. And then when I execute this report again, or even if I refresh this, look at what happens. I have my sales amount for the year 2020, month 6, displaying in the screen. So these special variables, these special data model parameters we created, we can use them as a part of a calculation. We can also use them in the titles. Now, there's another place where we can use them. We can also use them in these specific joins I told you before. So if I go into my specific values here, I can see that if I try to add a join, I can find that special variable that I created before just there. And they could be a join. Now, the scenarios that you open with this are endless. Are they going to be common scenarios? I don't really think so, but you can do it anyways. So Dinesh, hopefully this answers your question. Okay, so any other question, guys, that you might want to ask? Do you want me to repeat something there? Okay, I'm gonna try to do something more edgy. So one of the options that we have on the data model is in this version 9 is the option to show links. So to create a link or a hyperlink, oh, I have another question. Just let me stop there. Okay, it's just a note there. So it's create hyperlinks. So we can create hyperlinks and do a reference to any other report. So let's create a hyperlink that will be pointing an application link we have in Google. So as a part of our data model, we can always create a calculated column that will be a dimension. And then we're going to just make a reference that's going to be HTTP. This is more, it's a bit more technical in this. At this point, or let's say very technical at this point. Let me just review the syntax of this. Well, let me use the one that I have on my script. It's not really working right now. So let's try something else. Oh, I will need to check this. I'm sorry if I didn't show it to you guys. I'll need to check it deeper. It's just not working at this point. So I will rather ask if you guys have any questions. Oh, Dinesh has a question here. I just lost the question panel.
Ed, do you want me to read the question to you?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, so the one from Dinesh, have you been answering all of the questions? Yeah, so which one are we at? The recent ones, eh?
Yeah, just the one that.
He said, what about running total? Did we do that already?
Yes, we do that. Okay.
Okay, we have a question from, yeah, so he said, what about running total?
Okay, thank you, Olivia. So for running totals, that's a very good question. So in 9.4, the running totals is not fully functional. We implemented an early version of that in this version I'm showing you right now, 9.4. And the way it's going to work so far is based on the sum over calculations. So let me just try something, because I haven't had the time to play with it, but I did make a question, so I did wanted to show something about it before during today's session. So for example, for the running total based on the invoice amount, we need to define the steps or the level where we want to do it. And it's going to basically work based on the sum over calculations. So in this 9.4 version, you will be able to use, on top of all the other SQL commands that you have available, you will be able to use the sum over, the ranking, and the row number over as well. So the running total for you will be based on the sum over. So for example, in this case, the sum over based on the customer will be based on the date. It's not working right now. So Dinesh, what I'm going to do, if you agree, I will make a little booklet with a valid example, so you guys can have that. So the point that I'm trying to explain you right now will be sum over will be the running totals in this early implementation. By the time we have 9.7, or let's say at the end of the summer, we will have a more flexible running total. But at the very beginning, you will be able to at least use sum over. And for that, I will prepare a little document just for you guys to have a valid example. Same for the hyperlink as well. Would that be good?
There's another question.
Oh, okay, can you read it to me, please?
Yeah, sure. It's from Bob. It says, how would you sanitize the URL parameters? For example, if an ampersand is passed from database and you need to convert it to ampersand amp colon.
Okay, I got you.
And then it says dot, dot, dot. I know, technical question, LOL. Yes, it is a technical question, Bob, that I don't personally understand. So I'm going to let Edgardo take over.
Bob, thanks, Olivia. So Bob, I will prepare a valid example for you guys because my intention was to make it work based on the hyperlink that I had available. For example, the one that I have right now. It was working at the time that I was trying it out, but now it doesn't seem to work. So let me just prepare something that is really, really valuable, and then I will get it to you. I will get it to you once we once we release all this documentation we're going to be sending. How about that? But you sanitize it basically by using the single quotes as the same way I'm doing it right now. So yeah, there are some things you won't be able to do, but I will ask that so you guys have a very valid example with all of that included. How about that? I know it's not a real answer from me right now, but that's what I can get you at this point. Sounds good?
Looks like that's all in the question box for now, unless anybody's still typing some questions in. Oh, someone says, hi. Oh, thanks, Edgardo. Great job. Very clear presentation. Thanks, Bob. That's nice. Then, hi, how can we link multiple tables? Do we have that? Did we answer that already?
Yeah, I answered that already. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So unless there anything else that came up, not for now. So I think, Ed, maybe we'll just go jump back to the PowerPoint slides really quickly.
I'm there already. Yeah.
From Dinesh, good session. Thanks, Edgardo. Wow, look at all your great feedback you're getting. Good job, Ed.
Thanks.
All
Hopefully
right.
it was not so boring.
So thank you to everybody for attending this session. I believe the next session is going to be on Thursday at the same time. That I believe will be with Jean-Guy. It's on the universal data model. So that should be a really interesting session. I know it's a topic that customers have a lot of questions about. So I think you'll be interested in attending that one. I just wanted to quickly mention that we are a promotion right now on Nectari licenses. So if you're interested in adding more licenses, expanding the use of Nectari within your organization, or you're interested in the data sync modules and the new modules in version 9, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We have a 25% discount on licenses going on until June 30th. So most of you already have my contact info, but if not, here it is. And in terms of upgrades, for those of you who have not had the chance to upgrade to version 9, we'll be more than happy to assist with that as well, scheduling those upgrades for you guys so you can start taking advantage of the new features. Again, you can send me an email and I'll pass you on to our services director, Nick, who can get a resource scheduled for you and get that all set up. The last thing I want to mention, and again, I did mention it at the beginning of the presentation, but I often still get the same question many more times. All the sessions are being recorded, guys. They're all going to be sent out to you again, so don't worry about that. You'll have access to all of the sessions that we're providing, and just a thank you to everybody for taking the time out. I hope you enjoyed the session. I hope you got a lot out of it, and we're looking forward to seeing you on Thursday for the universal data model. Thanks so much, Ed. Great job.
Thanks to you guys, and yeah, thanks, Olivia. And I'll see you next time. Well, the one when we get another chance.
Yep, definitely. Have a great day, everyone.